everybody, it's me, the real King of BC, back again with a new video. And honestly, today's going to be very different because I actually want to talk about gag characters. Now, I think that gag characters are actually very important. And no, not just because they're good at telling jokes, but in general because of comedy. Now, comedy itself has always been and will always be important, no matter how you slice it and no matter who you ask. Now, as we all know, comedy is subjective, and what I find funny, you might not find funny, but that's not the point. The point is that comedy is very important. And I definitely think that comedy, in the form of gag characters, well, sometimes it's not used very well. When it is used very well, it's actually pretty darn good. Now, I think it's best to start with comedic relief characters, because comedic relief characters and gag characters seem like they're the same thing, but they're really not. Comedic relief characters are just there just for the sake of a couple jokes, but they're not necessarily gag characters. Alright, also I want to talk about parody characters as well. Parody characters are basically in a league of their own. Parody characters are pretty much characters that are made to make fun of a specific thing, or maybe multiple things. It depends on the parody, if we're being honest here. Some are specific, some are pretty not specific, so yeah. The whole thing with that is that, again, both parody characters and gag characters, they're usually not seen as important by most people. Because, well, they're the class clowns, right? Usually they're just to tell funny jokes and to make fun of stuff and the situation and the characters and the world and so on and so forth. There are a lot of parody characters that are very good at insulting the world that they're parodying. But comedic relief characters, well, yes, they are the class clowns. Not exactly to the same degree as gag or even parody characters. Comedic relief characters, sure, they tell exaggerated jokes and do funny stuff, but parody and gag characters take it to a whole nother level. And I think that's the biggest difference between parody characters, gag characters, and, of course, comedic relief characters. Comedic relief characters, they'll do something wacky and ridiculous, sure, and it is exaggerated, but when a gag character or a parody character does it, it's, like, way more exaggerated. Know what I mean? Like, parody and gags are usually, like, very exaggerated at times when it comes to parody and gag characters, to the point where maybe you don't think the joke is funny, maybe you think they're jumping the shark a little bit. I don't know, it depends. Heck, you might not even be into the jokes that the parody / gag characters tell, or you might actually like the comedic relief characters a bit more than gag characters because they don't exaggerate as much as gag or parody characters, possibly. Again, it depends on what your comedic taste is. Me personally, I think all three of them are important. All three of them can be done pretty badly, and the jokes sometimes don't always land, and they usually, when they don't land, they're usually very bad, very corny, and just unfunny. But when they do land, they're pretty hilarious. Some laugh out loud type stuff. Know what I mean? Anyway, moving on to parody characters, and gag characters. Now, parody and gag characters are pretty, insane, to say the least. I think a really good example is Bobobo-bobo-bobo, which in itself is a shonen series, a shonen anime series that parodies other shonen anime series. And it does a really good job, too. Like, it's hilarious. Like, the main character, Bobobo, is one of the funniest anime characters that I've ever seen. Because there are so many tropes in shonen that get mocked in Bobobo that it is hilarious. It's insane. And it's off the wall, complete insanity, but it's also completely hilarious. Bobobo is a shonen main protagonist like no other. His attacks aren't really attacks, they're just him telling insane jokes. Not only him, but his friends and his companions, and hell, even the antagonists get it on it as well, sometimes. Not all the time, but, right. for the most part, most of the characters in Bobo usually fight using gags. They don't use actual moves or actual attacks. They use exaggerated gags that are just completely insane and hard to take seriously, but they're hilarious and they're usually really well done. And right. Another example of this is Dr. Slump. Now, Dr. Slump was actually created by Akira Toriyama, the same man who created Dragon Ball. And not only that, but the main character Arale, who is very similar to Bobobo, is is a character that's basically made to parody the very genre that she's in. And while I don't know much about Dr. Slump, I do know that Arale is a pretty insane character. She's very exaggerated, not exactly someone to take seriously. She looks small, and yeah, and that's because she's like a small young girl, but she can split apart the whole earth with just one punch, and all that type of stuff. If you have read Dr. Slump, please tell me more about it. I'd love to hear about it. And if you like Bobobo, please do the same thing. That'd be great. Um, now, now I think it would be a really good idea to outline characters like Sheen Estevez from Jimmy Neutron, or Fanboy and Chum Chum from the show Fanboy and Chum Chum, as clear examples of what not to do when creating comedic relief characters as the main characters. Now, this has always been a huge problem when it comes to TV shows, making the main characters the comedic relief characters. Now, Sheen was a really good comedic relief character in Jimmy Neutron. Like, he was hilarious. I loved him in Jimmy Neutron. But in Planet Sheen, which was his solo show, was pretty bad. A lot of the jokes weren't very funny. The scenarios themselves were way too ridiculous, even for something like a spin-off of Jimmy Neutron, which is saying something. If you've seen Jimmy Neutron, and please let me know in the comment section if you have, you'll know that it gets pretty insane. However, in Planet Sheen, it just didn't work. It just wasn't very funny, in my opinion. I didn't hate it, I just wasn't a big fan of the show, and neither was anyone else. In fact, it did pretty badly, to the point where no one wants to talk about it nowadays, and for good reason. It was a very annoying show, and it didn't do very well. Speaking of annoying shows, Fanboy and Chum Chum. Now, I'm sure not many people remember Fanboy and Chum Chum now, but it's yet another annoying show that really didn't need to have main characters who are also the comedic relief. Now, Fanboy and Chum Chum, they tell fart jokes, they tell gross out jokes, they scream all the time, they're incredibly hyper. They're incredibly annoying, both of them. Basically, they're making fun of comic book fans. That's pretty much the whole thing of Fanboy and Chum Chum. They make fun of comic book fans, or even video game fans. Actually, now that I think about it, they make fun of really just fans in general, which, I mean, could go either way, but they don't do it very well. Their style of comedy is very annoying, very grating on the ears, if you know what I mean. And it's very repetitive, too. It's the same thing over and over again, right? Yeah. But this is pretty much a reason why you don't make comedic relief characters the main character. However, weirdly enough, gag characters and parody characters as the main character usually work. Like, again, Bobobo and Arale. So, that's very interesting, but yeah, that's all I have for today. But yeah, I think gag characters are important because they remember to make you laugh, they remember to make you feel good, and so on and so forth. They're entertaining, and their jokes are good when they're written well, and when they're acted well, and so on and so forth. Comedy is very important, and gag and parody characters are a great example of that, especially when they're done very well. But yeah. Oh, that's all I have for today. Please do not forget to check out my social media. It is in the description, and as per usual, it is very important. Don't forget it. And of course, if you want more of me, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and do not forget to hit that notification bell. Real King out. Have a nice day.